Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Project Blue Book, Season 1, Episode 1. It is called The Fuller Dogfight. So, full spoilers. Actually, not full spoilers. It's Episode 1. We start spoiler free. I do this every time. Episode 1's pilots, we do spoiler free first. We'll warn you in the middle before we go into spoilers. And so this is a show from history. This is a show based on true accounts and investigations.
Is this history's second scripted show? Because obviously they had Vikings.
I think they've had a few more than that. Didn't they have that night one, Nightfall, or whatever it was called?
Oh, was that history as well?
I think that was history.
Okay, fair enough then.
And they had 6, which was like a Navy SEALs
the
thing.
military one.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, you're right.
So they've had a few. So this is not new for them anymore.
Okay.
They've had enough over the years now that it's just kind of...
I kind of forget in the forgettable ones.
It's normal for them to have at least a couple of them now, I think.
Yeah.
I still find it weird when MTV announced they're doing a scripted drama.
Yeah, I'm kind of comfortable with the idea of history doing it now.
At least with history, there's so many like movies and shows that are based on like events of life that and history itself that at least I can see a reason for it.
Do you know what it is? I think it's just a case that Vikings got big enough that I accepted that it was a thing, and I'm like, okay, I'm used to that being around. I'm used to that being from history. That sure they can do something else.
I mean, if MTV only did like shows and movies about like actual music like let's say they did Bohemian Rhapsody as an MTV movie, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense because it's about a musician.
It wouldn't be as good, but yeah.
Sure, yeah, but like it would make sense to me. But they did the Scream TV show for reasons. So
oh boy, I'm glad I didn't watch that one.
I don't know. That's what it is. But yeah, so this is based on true accounts. Blue Book was I actually know this from Twin Peaks of all places. Is Blue Book was the code given to in the investigation of UFO and paranormal activity in the 50s and stuff. You know, after Roswell, that kind of time period.
It's kind of what inspired X-Files, right?
Pretty much. And obviously they're claiming this is based on true stories and stuff. Like
grain of salt, but probably enough that they can claim it.
Just enough, yeah. Like I'm sure, this episode's about a pilot who saw a light in the sky. I'm sure that part's true. A pilot said he saw a light in the sky.
I believe that, yeah.
Yeah,
I believe that happened.
The other stuff that happens in this episode, I'm not necessarily as convinced, but that's okay.
It doesn't need to be true. It can be good and completely made up.
It just has to be good. That's all. That's the important part. So. Yeah, so you have Ian Gillan as kind of the professor, the doctor who's sort of roped in by the military to kind of disprove things. And he is resistant at first, but he's kind of ultimately tempted because he can break new ground and earn respect and basically do something that no one's done before, because no one's really investigated UFOs before.
Yeah, he wants to not necessarily be, are they real, but he wants to prove that they don't exist, which is, I think, an interesting angle, because usually it's, they want to prove that they do exist, right?
Well, the interesting thing about me, though, is that the military guy that he's kind of partnered with, Quinn, is he's quite quick to just write things off and explain it. Whereas Hynek, even though he does what he proved they don't exist, he's not willing to take any shortcuts. So if the math doesn't add up to what the explanation that he's been offered is, he's like, no, that doesn't explain it. We have to keep testing things.
Yeah,
we have to keep proving
he's willing to maybe believe it eventually, right? But he's going in with the mindset of, no, I can prove this is all bollocks.
But we've not. But when he's presented something that someone just accepts, he's like, no, that's not proving it yet. Yeah. We're not there yet. I've not actually, because the big thing here is that the military guy Hynek in this episode, tries to explain it's a weather balloon. That's kind of the classic explanation, and Hynek does some math and says, no, it couldn't have been for these reasons.
Doesn't make sense. Yeah.
And it's just this ignorance to wrap it up quickly, and there's an implication that the military just kind of want to prove that things aren't real as quickly as possible. And obviously the implication is that maybe they know more things and they want to hide things, that maybe there is real things.
But they want on the record that they think it's bollocks. Yeah.
There was a scene early on where I liked where the military are watching like a trailer for a movie, and like we need to start putting out reports because we want to control the narrative here, not Hollywood. They're worried that Hollywood are going to make people all believe that there's aliens and shit coming out.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Which is funny.
How did we feel about it then? You got any overall thoughts?
It was okay.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. There's things I definitely like. It's very expositionary.
It's
But I
very
don't
exposition.
I don't know how much of that is just it's a first episode.
It felt very kind of network TV to me in a lot of ways. There was a lot of tropes. The character dynamics between the main two felt very
Yeah.
just kind of typical, and like there was because there was a moment where Aidan Gillen, um, he like he turns around and demands that someone prove something, right?
Yeah.
And it's basically that scene where they're showing that the scientist guy is really smart. That is the scene, and you've seen it in 100 million different shows and movies, and it just played beat for beat like one of those scenes to the point where the dialogue felt really cheesy to me.
Yeah, I don't think it's done badly. I think it's just that I've seen it so many times that
Yeah,
it's cliche.
there was just nothing added to it to make it give it a bit some pop or some sizzle. It was just played straight as it ever has been.
I agree with that, and I thought the subplot with his wife was particularly TV.
Yeah, I was just there. I don't even know what the
Yeah,
purpose of that is yet.
no, me either.
I assume the new friend she makes is probably going to end up secretly being someone else because that's the only way it could possibly tie into anything else that's going on.
And no, I disagree with that. I think
Oh,
it's just to give it some personal drama
oh, really?
because love triangle, because TV. No, I mean,
Okay. I mean, it could be that. I'm assuming there's going to be a crappy twist. That was
I
my
mean, there's that too.
that was my jumping to, but you could be right. I think the biggest problem probably with this, given that we're talking about that it's very generic in its tropes and a lot of what it's doing, is that I could get past that. But I think the big problem is that I think the characters are lacking personality. Because it's not like Aidan Gillen's a bad actor, but his character here has nothing to him. There's nothing about him that makes him interesting.
Yeah, definitely in this first episode, at the very least, there isn't
Yeah.
really much going on for the characters to make them stand out from each other at all.
And the only moment they try to give him is with his son, and his son is an awful actor. He was like cringeworthy bad.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to do a new job. What kind of job, Dad? Oh, it's how in those Flash Gordon comics you read, he's always fighting aliens. It's kind of like that. That
I'm getting
sounds silly.
PTSD.
What was that?
I'm getting PTSD symptoms with you just telling this through now.
It was really bad, and
Yeah.
like because I felt the scene because there's a scene towards the start of the episode where we see that he's currently trying to get funding for this space telescope or whatever it is.
No, I think it was essentially it was GPS. By the
Was it
sound of
GPS? Yeah, it's basically it's the device that they're going to launch out of space for that purpose. Not quite the satellite itself, just the technology that'll function do that
from
function.
satellite.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he was talking about measuring position of things, so
Yeah.
I think it was GPS.
So yeah, that makes sense. That's the reason. But he's basically trying to explain this, and he's saying, "Oh, one day we'll get to the moon," because obviously this is pre-moon landing and all that. And everyone in this committee is being skeptical, and like they're going through the documentation that he's given them, and there's a Flash Gordon comic book in it, and I get what they're doing here. That this is what they think this is that it's just this silly sci-fi nonsense that's not realistic.
Yeah.
But it felt so forced and kind of like
No, I agree. Do you know one of the moments that really felt cringy to me more than anything is when he gave it the name of UFO.
yeah, it was really on the nose
Because the guy's like, the military guy's like, oh, UFO, what's that? And he goes, oh, unidentified flying object. I just shortened your lingo because if new science, new terms.
The problem with this, see, I have no problem with having the creation of the term UFO on the show because Mindhunter did it with the serial killer.
That was exactly what I was about to compare it to.
And
is
that felt
built like that was what 8-9 episodes in when that finally got to that moment.
It felt very natural because it built up. But even if it didn't build up, I'd be okay with it if someone said, it's an unidentified object or, something close, and then he said, hey, let's call it UFO for short, and just make it like a non-moment. But they had this thing where the other guy turns around and says, UFO, what's a UFO? And he's like, oh, let me explain it to you. I've condensed it, and I've added my own little bit of flair.
Because they're already using unidentified flying object in their reports.
Yes.
Like, they're using that term already, just not the acronym.
The 3 minutes it takes for them to explain it is what kills it completely.
No, I agree.
The other guy turning around and being like, what's a UFO? What's this weird lingo? Well, if it helps me write reports quicker because it's shorter, then I'm behind it. And I'm like, nah.
I mean, I can get behind that sentiment.
I can get behind the sentiment. It felt like he's being dismissive, but he's going to accept. I don't know.
That might be the most authentic thing in the show. The idea that this caught on because someone couldn't be bothered to type the rest of it.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm okay with that. Well, to be fair, that's
That's
how
the
all
most realistic.
acronyms get popular.
Yeah, no, it is. But this one was particularly just like, the character going, nah, screw it. If it makes it quicker for me.
Yeah, so they investigate this pilot who we get this opening scene where we get to see what he sees. There's this light and this.
Which, to be fair, I thought the stuff in the plane both times looked pretty good.
It looked alright. Yeah, um, and it's about them investigating this case and trying to disprove it. It's mostly setting things up, but it kind of escalates from there. And there's a hint of a larger mystery that's going to be a plot of the season, which we'll get into a bit more in spoilers. But just a sense that there's a third party watching. I'll just say, and that's kind of setting up some of the plot for the season. But yeah, so I have to admit I'm not really that sold on watching more of it based on this pilot episode.
That's fine. I was kind of going, a friend of mine asked me early after I knew I'd watched it, going, should I check it out? And I went, honestly, at the minute, it's hard to recommend. It's not bad enough to say, oh no, don't stay away.
Yeah.
But it's not good enough that I should say, go out of your way to watch it. I said, if you've got a spare 45 minutes, just you got nothing else to do, sure. And I said to him, I'm going to wait and see how you feel. Because if you're like, oh, I want to watch more, sure, I'll watch more. If you don't want to really, that's fine with me.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling it. It's possible it could get better. It could.
Yeah.
But right now, based on this pilot episode, I felt just mostly cliches, mostly cheesy tropes, and
I agree. It's definitely not bad. It's kind of generic. I will say though, compared to this time last year when we were trying a couple of new shows, I feel better about this than some of those.
Oh sure, yeah.
Just in terms of how to kick off the year, right? But not enough that I'm like, oh, that's a great start. Let's go.
Yeah, it's not a great start. I mean, yeah. So we'll give the spoiler warning so we can talk a bit more about the other plot details. So full spoilers then for episode 1 of Project Blue Book. So we see someone's watching Hynek from when he first leaves the house to go to the first case. And we see that figure as well because basically he makes Quinn take him up on a plane because Quinn used to be a pilot. He was an actual fighter pilot.
Yeah.
And he makes him. So let's go up at the sky then. And let's see what it looks like at the height. Let's look at a weather balloon in the sky and see what it looks like at night. And they go up, and it looks nothing like what we saw in the opening, right? Just at least to the audience, disproving that this is if it is not a real thing, then it's definitely not this explanation.
Yeah.
And he ends up crashing the plane because he tries to do a maneuver that the pilot said he did.
Yeah. I want to say this is probably the weirdest edit for me. Because they're going down, it's like, oh, you better buckle in, and then it kind of cuts to the doctor being like, so what just happened? And the pilot's like, well, if it weren't for me, we'd be dead.
There's a couple of quick shots because he's a mysterious figure because that's why I was bringing this up.
Yeah, but in terms of the actual editing of it, like from the character's perspective,
Sure.
It felt really jarring for me in terms of not seeing any of that.
But what I'm saying is he sort of wakes up for a brief second after the crash when he's lying there, and he sees like a silhouette of a man in a hat. Again, someone's following him. It's continuing that, and then later on he realizes he's been followed, and he kind of tries to evade them, and then he follows where they went into this like abandoned place, and it's like a Clockwork Orange setup with like a projector and like these images and numbers and this is clearly going to be like the season long arc. Like, what's this conspiracy? Who are these people? What's going on?
Yeah, which again isn't the worst concept. This could be pretty compelling eventually, but it's still kind of generic as a setup.
Because he goes and talks to the pilot as well after he's had this crash. And the pilot's basically like, because he says, oh, we tried to do that maneuver that you did and it didn't work. Like, how did you pull that off? And he says, I didn't. It was like
the light kind of did it.
Yeah, it was a bit like it was being controlled by them, whatever it was.
I think the mystery stuff like that was probably some of the more interesting things. Like, like the pilot's hearing this radio station that is clearly out of range of what he should have been hearing.
Yeah, it's a different state. It's like across the country.
Yeah, and people are like, oh no, he's just hearing things, right? But then the doctor goes and calls the radio station. It's like, no, they were playing that song when this happened, so maybe he was hearing it. Yeah,
and Hynek chooses to keep the fact that he's found this stuff out to himself. He doesn't tell anyone. But the military, led by Damien Dark and Neil McDonough, actually kidnap the pilot, like sedate him and drag him out of the hospital.
Look, I'm not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
This would be so much better if it was actually just an episode of Legends of Tomorrow, and that was Damien Dark just behind it all.
Yeah, he's in the military now. Yes, calling these
Yeah.
shots. So like I think the premises has potential, but I think it plays it too close to just the bog standard what you expect.
Yeah, I think it's a bit too dry as well, ultimately.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
There's a number of things that it just add up to it being just okay. There's no one thing that ruins it. There's things where, oh, if this was just a touch better, I'd be maybe that's enough to stick around, right?
I feel like it also when I said it feels like a network show at the start, I really mean that. It feels like something that could be on Fox. It doesn't feel like something that would be on a cable, because I've never seen Vikings, but I get the impression that Vikings is a bit more of a premium show.
I've seen the first season of Vikings, which is enough to judge it by, at least in terms of that standards. And yeah, it definitely doesn't feel like a network show in any way.
Yeah, whereas
And
I think this does. This feels like a network show.
yeah, we covered the first episode of Nightfall, and I know you didn't really like that, but it didn't feel like a network show.
No, the production was better than that. I mean, I didn't like the production design so much, but the money spent didn't
The
feel
budget,
lacking.
yeah. This one, like I said, I think like the plane sequences look quite good and better than what I'd expect on a typical network.
Everything else felt network though. The way it was written, the way
The writing, the characters, the structure of the plot, network.
Oh, and I never felt any extra money in the rest of the scenes though, I suppose, as well. Like, when they're walking around and talking, I know it seems weird. Like, how does that feel more expensive? But it does. Like, I think if you watch a well shot TV show that's got a budget and they're just like standing talking, it looks better than when
I think it's down to the direction.
Yeah.
Which, again, in this, it's not bad direction. It's kind of it's a TV show, right? It's standard.
It's very typical, yeah.
But and all of these things add up to just being like, yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's not a bad TV show. It's just another one.
It's just it's not the worst thing you're going to watch. It's just
like if someone went to me, oh, I'm going to watch all of this, sure. I wouldn't go, oh, you're wasting your time necessarily. But ultimately, I think we have better things that we can watch and put our time into than this.
Yep. So there you go. That is the first episode of Project Blue Book, which you can let us know what you thought of it if you watched the pilot at the comments.
I didn't realise it was quite that forgettable.
You can like and subscribe and all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, the show, and everything we do here, you can have it at patreon.com/mailfuzztv, and you can do that over there. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?